Hello, welcome back to another AP podcast, or I guess this is a little bit more of a video than a podcast, but today we are going through the NBA Reddit, and there's a controversial opinions thread, and we're just going to kind of go through some of these opinions people have and either criticize, agree with, or laugh at. So if we want to go ahead and get started, the first one, Shai is overrated as he is being perceived as a future superstar and top 10 player in the league. But I see him leveling out as a multiple-time All-Star player.
I actually totally agree with that. I don't think
What?
he's ever going to be top 10.
Oh, okay. I thought you agreed with he was going to be a top 10.
No, he's definitely not top 10. I could see him being a multiple-time All-Star, but he's never going to be top 10.
Yeah.
I would say his ceiling, it's hard to think of a player like right off the bat, but I'd say, oh my God, I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, he's just not he's not good enough to be top 10. He's definitely going to be a contributor for a while on the Thunder, but I mean, I haven't heard him being spoken of as a top 10 player either, you know? I haven't at least.
I would say that although his three-point percentage is good at like 35% or whatever, a lot of those are just wide open. If he could get a better pull-up three, I mean, who knows what happens. He's got a great pull-up mid-range, so he can like apply that to his three-pointer. I mean, maybe, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, he just doesn't have that talent level to be top 10.
Yeah, he's got the finesse, but I don't know if he has like necessarily like the athleticism and speed that a lot of these guys have. I guess if he puts in the work, it's possible, but he's never going to be top 5. I could see him being fringe top 10 maybe for like a year, but that's it.
Yeah, his absolute peak of his career could possibly be within that 15, 16 range, but I mean,
you might be able to throw him at 10. I feel like they're
really
at some point.
10. I guess that's true. A lot of the guys ahead of him, LeBron, Giannis, Kawhi, they won't be at that level at that point in their career. So
we'll have to see what happens. But I don't think he'll ever be like a top 10 guy for more than 1 year.
Yeah. Hello, we're back. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Peyton had to figure out some audio issues, but we are back. And right now we're going on to the next hot take. This one right here, I actually kind of somewhat agree with. Team chemistry is still the best thing for your team over having a superstar and bad chemistry. I definitely think that chemistry is on the same level. I don't know if it's like better than, but it's on the same level as having a superstar player or a really deep bench. You know, it's that important.
I would agree with this just because if you look at Kyrie with the Celtics, that's a superstar with pretty bad chemistry, but when he leaves that team, they actually perform really well in the playoffs. I agree with this, but I feel like if you're going to be a superstar in the league, a lot of these guys have great chemistry attributes. Like I'd say LeBron, Chris Paul, those are all guys that motivate the people around them.
Yeah, well, that's part of their game.
Like that's part of being a superstar in general.
Yeah.
So I guess Kyrie's the only superstar I could really point out that has bad chemistry. I mean, maybe Kevin Durant occasionally has had little scruffles with teammates, but I'd say Kyrie's the only one that really applies to. But I would agree with that.
I mean, it's just like team chemistry.
Based on what I saw with the Celtics, at least, and Kyrie.
Yeah, team chemistry is just kind of like, I feel like some people misdrew like what chemistry really is. A lot of people think it's like two people that just don't really like each other, like off the court, but it's really just on the court how they behave. Off the court obviously matters, but like the whole Shaq Kobe thing, like they figured it out and they were professional enough to be able to work it out on the court, you know? I mean, they won 3 championships. So yeah. It comes down to what kind of chemistry we're talking about, but definitely team chemistry on the court is one of the most important factors of a team. And like you said, like superstars already incorporate that into their game. That's why they are superstars.
I would say Kyrie doesn't, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, not all, most, but.
Yeah, but that's the only example I immediately thought of.
Yeah. Here's one right underneath.
Just go ahead and tag Kyrie. I didn't even see that.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang. Last year's Celtics are a great example. Hello, 2018 Celtics.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's what everyone thinks of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think of a whiny superstar, you immediately think of Kyrie, in my opinion. But moving on, 2016 Cavs are just as talented as 2016 Warriors.
I think this is like an extension off of the chemistry one.
It is. He
But
said
I
my
feel like that's a
controversial.
bit of a reach. I guess you could make the argument, but I don't think the Cavs had anywhere near the same amount of depth.
Yeah,
as
I
the
mean the Warriors
Warriors.
are the best dynasty of all. I mean, well, maybe not the best. They had one of the best teams of all time, if not the best. So
I mean, Sean Livingston, I don't know, just that the Warriors bench was so much deeper than the Cavs bench. So all those superstars throughout the playoffs are playing big minutes
yeah,
on the Cavs.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the NBA in 2016, so I can't speak on it too much. But I mean, just from past historical examples I've seen, I mean, it was a little harder to be as good as the Warriors than people might think. Although LeBron definitely closes the gap pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean the 2016 Warriors. I mean that's a 73-9 team. So like they
Yeah,
might
like
be
the best team of
less
all time,
like
and
they
arguably
might not have the talent, but they're definitely a better team. Just
overall.
coordination wise, whether that's coaching or chemistry or just passing in general.
Yeah,
I mean Draymond was all defensive. I mean that's a
there's
pretty good
a
team.
reason they won
It's
73
comparable.
games. You know,
Yeah,
like
both of those teams were really dominant, and both like conferences knew that those teams were going to head to the finals. But
yeah,
I'd still say the Warriors were a little bit more talented.
yeah. I mean, you can definitely say that for
Yeah,
sure. I feel like you can. There's an argument, but at the same time, it's
yeah.
really just comes down to LeBron how good he was.
Yeah, the
At that
Cavs are
time.
super top heavy, and the Warriors had great depth as well as having some of those top heavy superstars as well. So the Warriors were a lot better, well rounded.
All right. Well, if we want to move on, Tatum is overrated. I'm sorry, but 2 months of dominance does not make you a superstar. He's a top 25 player, no doubt, but I have not seen enough to say he is a top 15, 10 player, like people on this subreddit say.
Uh,
Um, it's not exactly just like the 2 months of dominance. It was the way he played in those 2 months. Like if it hadn't ended, he would have continued. I think he would have.
I would say that Tatum is a player that has proven this. He just hasn't necessarily had the same volume of shots
Yeah.
each year, and he's had a lot of changes with the rest of the team. But I feel like once he's kind of found a groove and been the guy to take over, he's actually played incredibly well. So I wouldn't say he's overrated. I
Well, it's
think
just
this season when he kind of was like, I'm the guy on this team and started taking those shots, he played a lot better. And then when Kyrie was out in those playoffs, he was like, I'm the guy right now. I need to take over. I think it's more of a mindset for him.
yeah, he's just
And like when he takes
improved
a
too.
shot.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it's I don't want to see people forget, but obviously there were things that led up to these 2 months of dominance, as this guy said. It wasn't just he exploded in 2 months. He became a better player since 2017. He even like in those playoffs played really well as a rookie to kind of like give the Celtics what they needed. You know, a little bit of a boost.
Yeah, I don't think he's overrated, but I could see that people haven't seen enough yet.
Yeah, I definitely think that maybe we need to see how he plays in the playoffs. Playoffs are the most important part of basketball. Like
He's
Kawhi
played
is a
well
playoff
once
guy.
in the playoffs, but like you never know. That second time, we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
It's going to be an interesting year because it's all kind of up in the air. But I would say Tatum's rated pretty well.
yeah. I would call him top 15 for sure.
I think he's top 15. I don't know.
Maybe on the latter half of top 15, but he's definitely top 15.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, I see someone say Clay is overrated. I upvote. So this guy doesn't really play that much. But
I'd say Clay is a system player. Like, but he's the best system player, like possibly of all time. Like,
I mean, he just does what he needs to do.
he's not going to create for you outside of the catch and shoot stuff. But I would say he's not overrated just because people underrate his defense so much. He'll play an entire season as well as throughout the playoffs, guarding the toughest player to guard on the other team. And the Warriors have not faced bad teams. They've played the Rockets a couple times. Kyrie's always a tough guy to guard. I mean, I'd say Clay, if anything, is underrated just because of his defensive ability. I mean, people don't see Clay as a superstar that's going to like take over a game because of his like shot creation. But if he's got someone else if he's in a one-on-one and he catches the ball while the other guy's like not directly on him, he's going to light it up. He has the ability to take over a game while not creating the shot.
Yeah, he just kind of needs people to be able to play make around him and get the ball to him on those off-ball screens and everything.
As well as a system. Yeah, it's a good point. Steve Kerr and those off-ball screens are really helpful.
Yeah. And just the players around him, like Curry is a great playmaker. Like everything around that, just it works out for Clay perfectly. I wouldn't call him overrated. I feel like he's perfect. Like he's in the spot he needs to be. He's not underrated too much. He's not overrated too much.
He'd also be great for any team in the NBA, which I don't think you can overrate.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to be good everywhere you go, I feel like that's a pretty good player.
If somebody has that kind of impact, it's definitely hard to call them overrated, you know?
Mm-hmm. Clay is a name brand Kyle Korver. Okay,
some people's takes are real bad.
I mean, Kyle Korver doesn't play defense. Clay guards James Harden. It's a bit different.
His defense is the fact that people are legitimately comparing him to Kyle Korver.
I like this next one.
Where is it?
If KG was on the Spurs and Tim Duncan was on the T-Wolves, we'd consider Garnett the best power forward of all time. I 100% agree with that.
You agree with that?
Ooh. Although, I mean, Kevin Garnett's already like.
Well, that's true because I mean, Kevin Garnett wasn't in a good situation at all. Like, the Celtics.
Okay, the Timberwolves were garbage. He was essentially like. They were trash, and he carried them to a 1 seed, and they had the best record in the NBA. He won an MVP. I mean, the fact that he even made the Timberwolves like half decent as an organization at some point is like super incredible.
Yeah.
And he ended up winning a championship with Doc Rivers and them. But honestly, I would say the only thing about this is I feel like Kevin Garnett, he's the type to kind of butt heads with people. If he got on the wrong side with Popovich, I don't know how he would fare. But I feel like Popovich is a relatively
level-headed guy,
oriented guy. He knows how to communicate with other guys. He's worked on Team USA. He knows all that stuff. So it would be interesting to see for sure. But I think Garnett would be the best power forward of all time.
I mean, he definitely would have the awards. Tim Duncan would not have the awards he has. That's for sure.
I mean, I don't see anyone carrying that Timberwolves team like Kevin Garnett did. And defense, I don't know. But I will say Tim Duncan is a little bit underrated just because he's not quite as flashy. So I'm not trying to take away from Tim Duncan. It'd still be close.
Yeah.
But I think Kevin Garnett would have the edge just because he'd have the accolades.
I feel like if Kevin Garnett was on that team, he would actually be talked about. Like, thinking about it now, at first I kind of was like, not really. But thinking about it, he's a much, like, flashier player. And that's for a lot of people, that's one of the biggest reasons they consider people the like greatest of all time. Like Kevin Garnett would be in the GOAT discussion. I mean, if you win that many if you win 5 championships and play like he did, I mean,
he was one of the first like stretch bigs.
He would be in the GOAT discussion if he had all the awards Tim Duncan. Take Kevin Garnett's career and add 5 championships to it.
I don't know if I'd say GOAT discussion, but he would be.
He'd be up there with top 5, top 8,
10, top 5. I mean, that's where Tim Duncan is, though. So, like,
true.
You're basically just interchanging them. Except I think Tim Duncan would be rated a little bit better than where Kevin Garnett's rated.
Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, just because that Celtics team did have a lot of other great players.
Well, I mean, talking about chemistry too, like you brought it up, like maybe Kevin Garnett would butt heads. I feel like that does have to be something you think about. Maybe they wouldn't have won 5 championships with Kevin Garnett because of that.
He also inspires people because of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to choose. He's one of those guys I think you love to have on your team but don't like him otherwise. But he's kind of unpredictable. So
he's pretty cocky too. I mean, it just depends on the players around him. It's not something you can just plug and play. You know, like you would have to watch that happen every time.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes a slight little confidence / arrogance type thing's useful.
Yeah. I do like KG, though.
I guess we can head down to the other. I'd say I do think Garnett would be better. Just the accolades are too much.
Yeah. All right, here we go. What's the next one?
You got to keep scrolling down. It's going to be on the far left of the line. Bro, a lot of people were sounding off on this.
Yes, that was a big thread right there. If you hadn't explicitly written KG, I would have no idea what you were talking about.
You gotta keep going down.
Dang.
The arrows are gonna be on the far left. Oh, there's one. The NBA is awesome the way it is, but one player's stardom holds its basketball to a much lower standard as a team game. That's really detrimental to the sport.
Kind of.
This is more like it's basically just saying one player is detrimental to like having one star is like detrimental to like basketball as a team game, which I
Well, I
guess
mean,
makes sense. But honestly, with the superstars these days, I know that there's more player mobility and everything. And I understand how this could affect kids like the high school level, trying to make these crazy step backs and all that. But honestly, from an NBA standpoint, I feel like more players are involved than they were, I guess, maybe in like the 90s. I know the Spurs had great passing as well as like the Pistons, but a lot of these teams were a lot of ISO teams. And honestly, the modern NBA has switched a lot from that. It's more transition
yeah,
offense and trying to do stuff fast. And I feel like 3-point shooters are really well incorporated.
yeah.
Um,
Well, the more I look at this opinion, I kind of am starting to agree with it. I mean, you said it might affect players in the high school level. It's definitely in people's heads that you want to be the star. You don't want to be the
yeah,
bench guy. You don't want to be the role player. You don't even want to be the second option. You want to be the guy. So, I mean, a lot of people might develop their games around that point when, like in the past, like the Pistons, we were talking about that in a podcast the other day. Like that was the last team with a like real like no like one star. It was just a group of guys playing the game really well together. It's hard to do that without a star nowadays with the way the league's developing. So I actually do somewhat agree. I don't know if it's completely detrimental to the sport, but it's definitely detrimental to the team basketball, you know?
I would say team basketball and like maybe like high school, but I think in college and the pros, I feel like everyone gets involved a lot more than they did like than the earlier 2000s as well as like 90s just because there's so much more ISO. I would say the Rockets are like the only team really to like strictly run ISO plays now. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of it's like moving action with screens and all that. But I do think like one team I would look at is the Raptors of last year. They had the superstar, but like you can't say that none of those other guys contributed. Like everyone's still contributing on that team. They're not just like giving the ball to Kawhi. Kawhi's finding other guys open, or they're cutting off of Kawhi. I feel like it is a team sport, but I don't think it holds it to a lower standard. I feel like there's always been ISO plays in basketball, and it's always been based around the star. I don't think it necessarily lowers the standard.
I just think that maybe I don't know if it lowers their stand. It's the way they phrase this is weird. I don't think it's detrimental to the sport, but I definitely think that it's getting rid or not getting rid of, but it's diminishing the roles of other players on the team. Essentially, like they aren't seen in the same light as they were.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like people kind of romanticize the role players like Steve Kerr and those guys, because like people didn't really see them the same way, I guess, back then as like
Yeah,
these great players. They just, I mean, really just him hitting that shot. Like that's like he only gets a couple shots a game when
that's
Michael
it.
Jordan's taking like 30 or 40. I feel like role players nowadays get a lot more shots than those ISO dominant like older
Yeah, but we
superstars.
don't talk about the role players as much. I just think that in
I don't think they
general,
did back then either. I would argue that they talk more about role players now than
really,
back in the day.
yeah, I neither of us were alive back in the day, but I mean,
Well,
I
I'm just
guess
saying,
you could
like
maybe say that.
on Sports Center, like growing up and stuff, I hear a lot more about Fred VanVleet on Sports Center than I would used
Well,
to hear
that's
about
also because
role
he like
players.
popped off in the playoffs, but that's just one
Exactly,
example.
but it's a role player popping off in the playoffs. It didn't used to happen. It used to be the one ISO guy because like he wouldn't even get the ball in the playoffs really
Yeah, I
because they
guess
just
that's
call
true.
ISOs towards
I
the end
guess instead
stretch.
of one shot, he had more. He had multiple great shots. It wasn't just one like Steve Kerr, but those are very small examples. I feel
Yeah,
like overall, like teams in general have just evolved. Like basketball's changed. I mean, that's how it's going to happen.
it has, but I feel like it's changed in a more team oriented way. I just feel like people see the one superstar because of social media.
I mean,
Um,
yeah,
I would say that it's changed. I mean, one game, this was, I guess, LeBron's like breakout game or whatever. I mean, I don't think any player in the NBA today would score 29 straight points at the end of the game. Like LeBron had 29 straight in a playoff game, like to end the game or whatever. That doesn't happen. Like people pass way too much. There are too many moving actions. I think that the style of play today is significantly more team oriented. Social media might blow up the bigger superstars more, but I
well,
think the
that's the
NBA in
thing.
general is more team oriented.
Well, just for the future coming up, Just in general, like high school, everything put
high
together.
school, it definitely does. Like, I mean, the role players shouldn't be trying to take step back.
Yeah, it's not necessarily like just the NBA at this point.
If it doesn't really affect the NBA, but I think it does affect high school.
All right. Well, if we want to move on, this might be our last one just because we have gone through a couple. We want to maybe make this a series, so let's find one good one.
Giannis has to prove he can overcome a defensive game plan that prioritizes taking away his. Hold up, you just moved fast. Duncan layup attempts. The Raptors won 4 straight after Nurse made some adjustments, and Giannis hasn't shown that he can hurt teams in other ways when they commit to a wall strategy. I would argue that Giannis doesn't necessarily need to change. I would say that the players around him need to make their shots.
Yeah, I was about to say the reason they lost that is because all the guys around them were missing their shots.
I think that the Raptors honestly are a really unique team and that they game plan for a lot of these guys really well. But I would say that if you're going to take 2 guys in the paint, someone has to be open. And if Eric Bledsoe's the guy open, he's got to make him pay.
Yeah.
He didn't necessarily do that. Brook Lopez had a great series because they would leave him open.
Well, I actually did some research on that when we were talking about him. He actually shot 34%.
I don't think that's he had a couple games where he had 20s though. He had a couple games where he popped.
But he also missed. He also missed his shots sometimes.
He was the reason they won the first game of that series though.
I know, but at the same time, he also missed like everybody else did. I'm just saying that his 3-point percentage was not up there with where it probably should have been. He wasn't even league average. They just need guys who can make their shots every time.
Yeah,
it's easy to say, but
I would say Chris Middleton would be a guy that I don't even think that Chris Middleton is going to get left open though, because if there are 2 guys blocking Giannis in the middle, I don't know. It's a really complicated thing. I would just say that. Brook Lopez was the reason that they won game 1 and 2 because he played I know he won at least one game for him because he was in the post-game thing instead of Giannis.
He definitely contributed, and I'm not trying to take that away from him.
I would say guys like Bledsoe kind of need to step up a little bit.
Well, just everybody. They didn't have any guys who were knocking down all their shots. The reason that the wall strategy worked is because they didn't have to worry.
On the outside.
Yeah.
I would say Middleton would be the guy to make him, but they still are sticking to Middleton, so it's got to be someone other than Middleton and Giannis.
They just need another guy that can knock him down at the same clip as Middleton.
Yeah. But what I actually like is this dude under it says it's possible to limit Giannis, but it doesn't change the fact that Bucks defense is number 1 in the league. That's actually a pretty good point. I didn't even think about defense. It is really hard to score on the Bucks. So, if Giannis is limited, they really do just need a couple guys to hit shots.
Yeah.
And I would say DiVincenzo, he didn't really play minutes at all last year.
Yeah, he's definitely improved.
And I honestly I might throw him in there just because he can shoot as well as he's a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, they need a guy like that. I think that's a great point.
I think he's gonna help a lot compared to Bledsoe, who's a really streaky shooter.
They just need guys who can knock them down at a good percentage consistently. Not a guy who can give you 20 maybe one night and then shoot bad the next night. They need some consistent shooters.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say Brook Lopez, he was last year at least a consistent shooter. Maybe he wasn't towards the tail end of that series, but for the playoffs in general, I thought Brook Lopez was a pretty decent guy.
Yeah,
I guess he just cooled off towards.
I'm not saying he played bad at all. I'm just saying he didn't knock down all of his threes like he should have. 34% is you should be shooting league average. I think if you're gonna be that guy in the team that is gonna be open on those plays where they give the wall, you have to be able to make them at least at league average.
Yeah, no, this is the game I remember actually. I just found Brook Lopez had 29, 11, and 4.
Yeah, I'm not trying to take away from that.
No, I know. I'm just saying, that's the point. Guys are going to be left open. And, if Brook Lopez can pop off one game, so can any of the other guys that get left open.
But they didn't, which is just what hurt them.
Yeah, they just switched from leaving Lopez open to Bledsoe, and
that worked really well. All right. Well, yeah, I thought that was good. Definitely some hot takes in there. Easy discussions to have. So hopefully we can continue it. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned till next time.